You're listening to 101.1 FM WOPP-IP WDRV-IP WALE-IP Providence. I'm your co-host, Dhruv
And I'm your co-host, Alejandro Jackson.
And this is the Outta Pocket Podcast.
Where we pull conversation topics out of our pocket.
And occasionally, go out of pocket.
Hi, welcome back to the Outta Pocket Podcast. We hope you're doing well. I guess this is the start of our, spooky season has kind of been in season.
Yeah.
I remember when I was back in Miami, in like September, like early September, end of August. Bro, CVS already had the decorations out.
It's true. The Halloween industrial complex stops for nobody.
I know, it's true. As soon as I feel like it gets worse and worse every year. Like, I feel like as soon as one holiday's over, it's like...
Yeah.
On to the next one. But yeah, it's spooky season. It's October. I gotta, you know how it goes.
You know how it goes. Skulls out, skulls out.
Also, yeah, I know you guys are like, oh my god, you're always wearing that crusty ass jacket. Man, fuck you. Anyway. So I guess I wouldn't call it a two-parter, but we're trying to cook
a little series of spooky episodes. We'll see how
it's a season of not giving, or I guess giving people the shits with your spooky stories. You tell them tales so spooky they shit their pants. And
the laxatives, I spiked the hot chocolate.
That's crazy. Man said trick or treat. Trick. That's crazy. But yeah, so today's show, we're kind of doing a bit of I don't want to say traditional. It's kind of traditional. You've been watching the show long enough. We be talking about stuff on the internet. The internet and just... Yeah, I know. We're so original.
Yeah, I'm also in my spooky attire because nothing's scarier than the misappropriation of classical iconography to promote colonialism and imperialism.
That's crazy. Let's just pretend that I'm not culturally appropriate.
Oh, man.
Anyway, please don't cancel us. On today's show, we are covering 3 spooky, uncanny, bit of true crime stories.
Bizarre, some might even call them.
For sure. On today's episode, and just talking about each one, the backstory, the mystery behind them, just having a fun time. For me personally...
Some might even say that we're going on a bizarre adventure.
Dun, dun, da 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 da.
Real ones know. Real ones catch it.
Yeah. I feel like every episode I joke around at giving myself harder and harder editing challenges. We hope you enjoyed the last edit. I was kind of funny.
Sleep for a while.
Run it back. No, I'm joking. But maybe. Anyway, so true crime is something that I don't want to say passionate about because if I'm not some forensic scientist, but true crime stories are something that I definitely enjoy listening to. I think they're just interesting. I think there's something about the mystery. Obviously, a lot of times when you hear a true crime story on YouTube or a podcast, they intentionally construct it in a way to build intrigue and mystery. But I feel like there's just something about kind of the build up and the revelation.
Yeah.
If there is one, which I guess we'll get to in this episode. About these stories.
A lot of the time there isn't too.
Yeah.
Remember the one time we watched that true crime thing about it's some family in Florida? Do you remember that? It was family in Florida. They thought there was a break-in, but I think it was staged.
For real? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
But I watched so many still looking.
Yeah, it's fair, but
I don't know. I feel like it kind of I feel like that's kind of part of it. Is you learn about how many crazy things happen in the world that you're like, damn, that could never happen to me, bro, until it does.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at it's under the lengths people will go to be doing ridiculous stuff like staging break-ins. There's I know there's a very kind of, I would say, well-known story where this daughter hired hitmen to kill her parents.
Damn.
Wow. I don't know. It's bro, people be crazy. But honestly, I guess without further ado, probably we should just jump right into it. So our first story is German, bro. So I'm not gonna lie, these pronunciations.
I apologize to the country of Germany. The Hinterkaifeck.
Hey, bro, you did Latin for many a time in your, that doesn't make sense. But for a while, basically. I feel like between the two of us, if there's anybody who is more qualified to pronounce these things, it's you. But essentially,
different language tree. But hinter means like hinterlands, right? Like that means like what, farm or like something along those lines.
Probably. I mean, I'm sure. It makes sense because this story takes place on a farm. So,
okay, fair. Crazy transition.
I know. So, on the evening of the 31st of March, 1922. That's a hell of a long time ago.
It was 100 years ago.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Yeah. 6 inhabitants of a small Bavarian farmstead located approximately 70 kilometers north of Munich, Germany, were murdered.
Oh, dang.
By an unknown assailant.
Ooh.
Going back to what we just kind of talked about, I mentioned, like, sometimes these things don't go solved. This one ain't solved, as far as I know.
Wow. Even 100 years later, wow, interesting.
Yeah, and like, one of the things that, if you follow true crime enough, like, so many of these stories talk about, like, how DNA the advancement of technology to be able to handle and analyze DNA and, like, find suspects through DNA analysis is, like, been revolutionary and, like...
Yeah, no, there's all the things about old cases that had gone cold getting reopened. Now that there's, like, ways to analyze it. I mean, that's how they caught the Golden State Killer. I don't know. I feel like I've actually talked about this on the show before, but, yeah, man, it was crazy. They managed to basically track down the Golden State Killer because, like, his second cousin or something managed to, like, his second cousin put their DNA in like one of the Ancestry.com. 23andMe actually does not cooperate with the police.
So it's Ancestry.
But yeah, Ancestry or like one of those that they basically managed to, like, track it back a couple of generations, compile an entire list of, like, thousands of names of, like, or not thousands, but pretty much everyone who descended from those two people. But then they were able to narrow it, like, because we already have information about the build, the height, probably Caucasian male. They got it down to, like, 6 people. And then they jumped him at, like, his, like, son's, like, baseball practice or something. It was crazy.
That is crazy. Bro hit that swiper, no swiping. Aw, man. Bro got caught.
Another thing I wanted to make that point. Another point I do want to make is, like, I don't know, obviously, like, these stories, command respect.
For sure.
And reverence from us. Like, we are out of pocket, but to a certain extent, But yeah, just going forward with the episode, like, we're still gonna be funny. We're gonna crack jokes, but yeah, I just wanted to be clear that, like, we don't mean to be disrespectful at all. And yeah, this shit sucks. Like, you'd never want to see it happen. And I think part of the morbid curiosity that comes with, checking out true crime stories is, damn, this thing happened. Like, how, is part of us just wants to know.
Yeah, and I feel like that goes into, I don't know, like, this point about true crime, like, you listen to it, and you're like kind of what I was saying earlier, like, it shocks you, like, how these things can happen. Like, you never think, I speaking from my, like, personal, I probably from, like, I couldn't imagine, like, just murdering somebody. Like, it just seems so, like...
I could.
Like, but, like, I don't know, I don't know, it really, obviously, it is very tragic. There is a bit of, like, you know, and I'm sure like there are people who do this kind of research of like, you know, like studying like, you know, the common traits behind, you know, people who like decide to commit murder and whatnot, and what circumstances lead to, you know, I'm sure there are many societal circumstances that may make somebody more predisposed to you know, to murder somebody. But anyway, long story short, I think I'm just trying to say that like there is a level of like damn, like, you know, how can these things happen?
Yeah. Would you say that like listening to these things have made you, you know, more kind of aware of the range of possibilities that could happen? Or conversely, is being aware of all these range of possibilities that could happen actually, you know, kind of makes anxiety and things like worse? Because now you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that that could happen. I didn't know that, like, you know, someone could be living in my vents, and now that's something that's occupying your mind.
I think to answer the latter first, no, I don't think I'm more anxious per se. I don't know. All I know is, dude, I just gotta be ready to throw hands in case somebody is.
I think every man thinks that when the time comes, if we need to, we could go berserk mode in a fight. It's true. It's true.
Bro, yeah. I think to answer the first question, which was like, was it? Sorry, could you like? Is it?
Yeah, like how does like being aware of these things kind of change your outlook?
I think. I don't know. I feel like it's more. I mean, I guess it depends on the story, right? So like, I know it's kind of traditional, but like when it comes to like Ted Bundy or like, I don't know, what's this guy's name? John something. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like, you know, there is a level of like, you know, like I was kind of talking about earlier. I'm sure there are scientists who study psychopathy and like, you know, like what are common traits behind, you know, like, you know, killers, like the lack of empathy, et cetera, et cetera. But then I also think there are crimes that are more like, you know, like
Understandable.
Not necessarily understandable, but like, I don't think it was necessarily that like for example, I guess the best way I can put it is like a lot of serial killers often don't show like remorse after they like whatever, they get caught and they're like, damn bro, sucks. But I feel like, you know, there are the murders where like it's more out of like it's more rooted in like, you know, some
motive,
yeah. Like you know, like a lot of them are like about, you know, like life insurance policy, or like, yeah, like you'd be surprised at the amount of ones that are like married couple gets divorced, usually has something to do with custody. You know, somebody like,
yeah, and there's always the classic, you cheated on me, you know, and then the fucking.
I think for me, I just hope that my minority instinct, just like, I'm being straight up, like I just hope that like, you know, with being raised as a Cuban, like, you know, just like we have that like, you know, we have that intuition, like something's off. Like, this person might murder me.
Bro said fucking spidey sense, bro.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's just like, bro, it's just intuition. I'm just saying, I like straight up, I feel like it has just, you know, I'd like to think that maybe I am.
You're different.
Decent at vetting people is all I'm trying to say. But anyway, so yeah, I think that I don't think I think I'm not more anxious, and I think it has just made me more like kind of aware of like, you know, just the broader world out there. But similar to how we've talked about on many episodes, I think like, you know, you've made this point on various episodes throughout our podcast history, like, you know, it's about choosing to see the good in humanity and like knowing that like, you know, you hear these stories, but there still is good out there and people that will, do good and are here to help and a lot of people who are just about like love and community and whatnot. And so I think it's easy to be like, damn, like shit running rampant, bro. But like, it's just like you gotta keep your head up. You gotta look at the positives and whatnot. But yeah, I guess with all that being said,
back to the stories.
Yeah, back to the story. So this family, which I guess a little like backstory. So there was 6 individuals on this small farmstead. Victoria Gabriel, 35, who lived with her 2 young children, Cecilia and Joseph, 7 and 2. Her parents, Andreas and Cecilia Gruber, 63 and 72, and their maid, Maria Baumgartner, 44. So I guess the grandmother and which I assume the daughter share the same name. So they were they lived on this Bavarian homestead, kind of isolated, and I guess how do we want to do this? I guess let's just set up the events leading up to. So this outlines that allegedly there were strange occurrences in and around the farm shortly before the attack. Apparently 6 months prior, the family maid had quit, and it was widely claimed that she left because she heard strange sounds in the attic and believed the house to be haunted.
Ooh, that's spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, yeah.
And you gotta think, like, I don't know. I feel like there's something particularly fear-inducing about the idea of a remote location. Not to say that sounds in your attic aren't scary, but I think sounds in your attic when you live in the suburbs are a little less scary than sounds in your attic when you live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. In the suburbs, it could be a bird. I know, personally, back in Miami, I have had many a bird who have lived in my attic for some reason, because they migrate south for the winter, and they're like, oh, ooh la la, Miami's so nice. Vacation home, and they be up in the attic.
Prime beachfront property.
I don't even live by the beach, but I mean, hey, low key, if you can just fly over, like,
yeah, true.
Bro, forget traffic, like, well, I mean, I do live by the airport, so, but whatever, anyway. Some other strange occurrences. Andreas Gruber found a strange newspaper from Munich on the property. He could not remember buying it, and initially believed the postman had lost the paper. But nobody in the vicinity was subscribed to the paper, so they don't know how this newspaper got there. And I feel like one of the more iconic strange occurrences that I have kind of spoken about this crime was that tracks were discovered in fresh snow that led from the forest to a broken door lock in the farm's machine room. But I am pretty sure that no tracks were found leading away from the spot. So, yes. Apparently footsteps were heard in the attic, but nobody was found when the building was searched. And people were told about the observations, but bro said, I don't want any help, and bro did not go to the police. And according to a school friend of the daughter, Cecilia, the young girl reported that her mother, Victoria, had fled the farm the night before before the act after a violent quarrel, and only hours later had been found in the forest. Bruh. Oh, I see. Had fled the farm the night before the act.
Wow.
And was found in the forest. So this, yeah.
Sheesh.
I'm kind of flipping between two sources of information, but Apparently, neighbors had become concerned when Cecilia missed school for several days, and the entire family missed church, and their posts piled up at the post office uncollected. That is never a good sign.
Yeah.
So, from my understanding, a search party showed up to the farm. A little, I guess, jumping back and forth. I see they had, just looking here, it seems that they had multiple maids. So it seems that the first maid was like, something's afoot here, and hit the dip. And it seems like on Friday, March 31st of 1992, a new maid.
1922.
What did I say?
1992.
Nah, it's the same thing.
It's a 90s story.
1922. The new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived at the farm. If I'm not mistaken,
that's the day of
the day of the...
Damn, bro.
That's the day of the...
That's just tragic. You show up to your new job and it's just like, man, that sucks.
Nothing, there's a joke, but... Anyway.
Nah, say it.
I was just gonna say Five Nights at Freddy's type beat, bro, but like...
man.
I mean, dude, but...
Is he Freddy Fazbear? Oh.
That's tragic. Anyway, so...
We already did the respect talk, so we promise.
Yes,
It's just jokes.
Maria's sister had escorted her there, and left the farm after a short stay. The sister of the new maid was likely the last person to see them alive. It says it appears in the late evening, Victoria Gabriel, her 7-year-old daughter, and her parents were lured to the family barn to the stable where they were murdered one at a time. I find it interesting, like, well, I mean, obviously, this happened so long ago, and I find two things interesting. One, how, like, investigations were conducted, and how they may have, like, come to this conclusion. And two, how, I guess, the information of these reports has been, I guess, stored throughout time. But, yeah, so a search party, well, I kind of, as I mentioned, I'm kind of jumping back and forth. After, they noticed that the family had been absent from, I guess, the community, a search party discovered the bodies of the maid and the 2-year-old boy in their beds, unfortunately, and the rest of the family's bodies were found in the barn, so I guess being in reference to, I guess, them being led one by one. They were stacked up one on top of another in the barn covered with hay. I'm just parsing. Anyway.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. And I feel like it was like in 6th grade in middle school, one of like our electives, I guess they used to call them connections, but like one of the fun ones that you could get sorted into was like forensics. You did a quarter of forensics. Was it a quarter or was it some? Yeah, must have only been a quarter.
Talking about 9 weeks, bro.
Yeah.
Back when we had the 9-week system.
Yes, sir.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I just remember learning so much. I was like, damn, like I feel like it's kind of impossible to get away with murder now, or like obviously not, but like, do we have so many tools in our toolkit, as like blood splatter, bullet, like for like ballistics analysis. So you mentioned DNA earlier, but also just so many other things. I'm like, damn, like a killer fucks up like once, no, like not even fucks up, man. You leave like a fiber of your shirt on something, that shit's getting picked up, analyzed, and it's like, gotcha,
That's true. Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to even imagine that, like, like they had to just do investigations like this with none of that. And so, like, no wonder a lot of them went cold, man. It's just, like, and, yeah, it's just crazy.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, I kind of paused earlier because I'm parsing the, obviously, I guess by nature of the episode, this is already not for kids, but, I'll kind of, you might, yeah, anyway. They were found with very brutal injuries, all caused by a pickaxe. So, 4 days passed between the murders and discovery of the bodies. As mentioned, the daughter was absent from school. The family wasn't showing up to church. So, they, sent the search party, and, they found the family. The investigation, this talks about the investigations, and initial investigations were hampered by the number of people who had interacted with the crime scene. So that's, like, another thing. I guess, well, I wonder, so it says, initial investigations were hampered by the number of people who had interacted with the crime scene, moved bodies and items around, and even cooked and eaten meals in the kitchen. I don't know who they're referring to, if they're referring to the search party or the department.
It could also be the murderer.
That's crazy. The day after the discovery of the bodies, court physician Johann Baptist, I don't know how to say that word, or his last name,
Müller?
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce umlauts. I wasn't trained.
Performed autopsies in the barn. Evidence shows that the young... I guess... okay, I will throw a warning at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. For the best, yeah.
But anyway, we'll just, the youngest daughter had been... Evidence showed that the daughter had been alive for several hours after the assault and had torn out her hair in tufts while laying in the straw.
Damn.
First suspecting the motive to be robbery, the police interrogated traveling craftsmen, vagrants, and several inhabitants from the surrounding villages, but they abandoned this theory when a large amount of money was found in the house. It was clear that the perpetrators had remained at the farm for several days. Somebody had fed the cattle, consumed the entire supply of bread from the kitchen, and had recently cut meat from the pantry. They began to formulate a list of suspects, and despite repeated arrests, no murderer has ever been found, and the files were closed in 1955. The last interrogation took place in 1986, 64 years after, before Detective Chief Superintendent Conrad Mueller retired. Some inconsistencies noted that the victims were probably drawn to the barn by restlessness in the stable resulting from noise from the animals. A later attempt, however, revealed that at least human screams from the barn could not be heard in the living area. On the night after the crime, 3 days before the bodies were discovered, this artisan happened to pass by the farm. He observed that the oven had been heated by someone. That person had approached him with a lantern and blinded him, whereupon he hastily continued on his way. He also noticed that smoke from the fireplace had a revolting smell. The incident was not followed up on, and no investigation was conducted to determine what had been burned that night in the oven.
Damn. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just, shit like this is just unsettling. Because, you could really... you could always just, like, come up with a whole host of reasons, It could be... There could have been a motive, There could have been, like, this one dude really hated this family. Perhaps more disturbingly, it could also just be, like, unmotivated, Just, like, a serial killer just, like, I guess, getting his kicks off. And then, there's always, like, the range of, like, supernatural or, like, other possibilities that, like, you know, they aren't really valid in like a forensic context, but still like, you know, people, you know, would be bound to think. And I also feel like for a long time, like we only know about this because by the 1920s we had pictures, we had phonographs, we had enough like means by which to document all this stuff. But I'm sure things like this would happen, you know, throughout human history. And they just aren't like, they just didn't last because they weren't documented as thoroughly. But, you know, sometimes they get turned into like legends or myths or like fables or just like, yeah, urban legends.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, there's like, you know, a number of suspects here, and, you know, you mentioned like, you know, we don't know what the motive is. And like you said, or like, you know, it ranges really. Like there's a number of suspects. One, you know, the first one being, and this is, I don't want to say it has to do with supernatural, but is already like a bit of a, I don't want to say far-fetched, but like it's interesting, is that this idea that the murder was actually Victoria's thought to be deceased husband.
Oh, wow.
He had reportedly been killed during the First World War, but his body was never recovered. And people began to speculate whether he had actually died or not. And, you know, maybe he came back and murdered them because of, well, I assume to be reasons that seem a little questionable.
Dang.
Having to do with incest.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so, and then, you know, there's other suspects. The Thaler brothers were also suspected because they had committed several minor burglaries in the area. You know, someone claims that one of the brothers stood at a window at night and asked questions about the family. You know, so it looks a little suspicious. You know, there are a bunch of suspects here. And so, it's unsolved. Yeah. We shall never know. And, you know, there's so much more to say. But I think we shall move on to the next tale.
Yeah. Yeah, you got any concluding remarks, or just...
I hope. You know, I think that the chances at which justice will be, I guess, served are very slim. I just hope that their souls are resting peacefully.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to cover first? A mysterious manuscript or some mysterious lights?
Ooh. Let's get into the mysterious lights.
Okay. So this is kind of moving away from
murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
was pretty heavy.
Yeah. There are these purported ghost lights near what is known as Brown Mountain in North Carolina.
That's near my ends, bro.
Near my ends, yeah, bro. You know, and there have been many sightings of people seeing these mysterious lights that kind of, I mean, I have a bit of a knowledge about this prior to this recording, but, you know, the people allegedly see these lights kind of on like a mountain for like, I guess, across this valley from them, and they kind of like travel down this mountain.
Interesting.
So earliest published mentions of the lights begin in 1912. People, or I guess it says the rapidly expanding electrification of the Linville Gorge area from the 1890s to the 1910s seems to be the origin of the Brown Mountain Lights legend. But obviously, you know, with any kind of mysterious lights that kind of be popping up and disappearing and stuff, people are like, is that a ghost? And And so, I feel like a lot of ghost stories have stemmed from these lights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look at... there was somebody named Josiah. Shout out to my boy.
Professor Carberry.
Yeah, they shat on your place, bro. They really they really did you dirty.
Jeez. What is that, bro? Yeah. It looks like a really like not even a trendy millennial bar. It just looks like.
Would you like to provide context?
Joe's, our late night burger spot, recently underwent a renovation, shifting away from its sort of vibey 50s diner aesthetic and towards I guess like a San Franciscan soy boy wet dream.
That's crazy. Honestly, if I'm being candid,
it looks bad.
I mean, it's yeah. I think I'm like I feel like there's a complete tangent. Two things. I feel like obviously a lot of things were like repaired, and that's nice. I think the amount of times that students at our university were threatened with injuries from a pretty faulty chair were quite common. Those chairs were pretty dangerous to sit in. And with that being said, we have new chairs and new tables, and that's all nice. Yeah. At the same time, the color scheme, they fumbled with that lime green.
Black, white, lime green.
There is a lot of fake-looking Ivy wallpaper, which is pretty trash. And I think my most, in my opinion, the biggest transgression is the absolutely terrible. Actually, let me not say that because, well, okay. In my opinion,
he's getting heated, bro.
I'm not getting heated.
Heating up.
I'm not getting heated. It's just I realized as I was thinking about it that there's like an artist tag or like the artist is credited as well. No disrespect to you, your art is great. I think that its placement within the establishment may not be the best choice for establishing an aesthetic. But there's a photo of a very mysterious-looking man who...
Supposed to be Josiah Carberry.
Who, if you don't know, is the professor of psychoceramics here at Brown University, who only appears every Friday the 13th. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, that little mural, whatever, is... I don't know, Chief. But, anyway, I don't know about that one, but whatever. I just want my milkshakes. So.
Yeah.
But Josiah Lafayette Wiseman was the great uncle of Scotty Wiseman, whose song "The Legend of the Brown Mountain Lights" came out in 1961. Greatly popularized these lights. So, according to a tradition that was passed down through the Wiseman family, but wasn't published until 1971, is that around 1854. Josiah Lafayette Wiseman was camping at Wiseman's View with his father when he noticed a flash of light in the distance. It was found that same momentary flash would appear at the same place on the horizon at about the same time, varying by at most half an hour each and every night. And he would often return to the place, and at the expected time, he would stare into the distance until he saw a glimpse of light. It is unknown how reliable or precise the date of around 1854 is because the source, Scotty Wiseman, was remembering things that 79-year-old Lafayette had told him when he was 13 years old, 50 years prior. However, the description of the light is consistent with a distant train headlight turning a corner. The first train in western North Carolina began nightly service between Morganton and Salisbury in 1858, and trains are known for following consistent and regular schedules as the light did.
Yeah. That's interesting. So this one definitely seems to have more concrete answers in terms of like actually explaining the lights.
I think so. I think something that's very interesting is just like the So I guess kind of, well, I mean, you know, welcome. I mean, we're independent now. Shout out to Wendigoon. If you don't know what Wendigoon is on YouTube, makes great videos, in my opinion. Go check him out. And please come on the pod. Give us a shout out. But, you know, he made a fucking, like a decently long video, like, at least an hour, I think.
Wow.
I watched it. And just, like, he went out there and was interviewing people. Like about these lights and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're very interesting stories. I think that you're right. There's as I look through this, totally not Wikipedia article, is, you know, a lot of this talks about how around the time that they were seen, as I mentioned earlier, the rapidly expanding electrification of the area seems to be the origin. Yeah, and like, you know, and this railway system, Southern Railway had begun upgrading their locomotive headlamps to 600,000 candle power systems in 1909, rendering their trains light output greater than that of some lighthouses that were in operation at the time. And so, you know, a lot of, you know, it seems as though it must be this train. But I think one thing that I do want to talk about that was in Wendigoon's video, and I'm citing from memory, so, you know, roughly, but I recommend going to watch the video. Excuse me. Is there was actually quite a sad tale. It's, I mean, I think it's one of those, I don't want to say, it's a story that's passed down, but let me make sure. Let me do a quick skim to see if.
What's like the? So you said it was passed down?
What do you mean?
The story.
Maybe. I say maybe because I don't know for sure, but I would imagine. I watched this video kind of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember that one thing that was talked about was it was basically this story that like that there was this couple, and I think the guy went out because they may have been. I think they may have been running. If I'm not mistaken, they were either like natives or like slaves. I don't know. And I think like the story is like that they were like on the run, and like they got separated, and basically like the I guess the story is essentially ends with like that the light is like. The woman searching for him, like down the mountain, something like that roughly. Again, go check out the video because I think it's a really good video and it does a lot more justice than I just did. As you said kind of before, obviously with this story there is a lot more. You know, it seems like there are, you know, proposed concrete explanations for, you know, what this could be. You know, and apparently it says here, Appalachian State University installed two low light cameras on rooftops that overlook Brown Mountain and Linville Gorge. By 2014, these cameras had produced 6,300 viewing hours worth of data without any unexplainable lights being recorded. Which I guess means they were a lot of explainable lights. I don't know. And so, you know, as you mentioned, it seems like this is something that has been kind of put to rest. At the same time, I think, and, you know, I keep mentioning this video about Wendigoon, but I think watching it will give you a better explanation of what I'm trying to say. It's just that I think there's something very, very interesting, honestly, like, for like lack of better words, about like how humans will like tell stories, how like these things become, you know, you know, tales spread across communities and between generations of, like, you know, what these things are. For example, like, as I talked about the Wiseman family and how it was like, you know, as a kid, Josiah Wiseman was just camping out with his father, if I'm not mistaken, with his father. And that ended up being it was a story that then ended up being passed down through generations, and even had a song made about it. And so I just think there's this interesting element of, like, I guess kind of, like I said, like, community and, like, just telling tales throughout generations. I think, like, it's something that you know, in a lot of, like, I guess writ classes here at Brown, like writing classes here at Brown, it's something that, like in this class I'm taking right now, in the German department, it's Grimm's Fairy Tales. We read a piece about how, and, you know, obviously this is an opinion, but this writer talked about how, like, he believed that, like, the art of, like, oral tradition and oral storytelling was, like, dying. And it's something that I have, like, kind of read in other classes, like my Fiction 1 class. I also read a piece by another writer who made this claim that oral tradition is dying. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whenever people say so-and-so art form's dying, it's always a little dramatic and kind of, like, blown out of proportion. Like, the amount of people who are like, jazz is dying. It's not. It's just different. But, yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to agree that, like, there are no equivalents of a communal space where people gather around a campfire and, you know, it's like, you know, shamans, griots, or maybe I'm misappropriating the term griot, but, you know, like, you know, it's like actually telling stories, passing, you know, before writing systems, that's how things were done.
The Bard, bro.
The Bard. But now, I mean, one could, I would argue that, like, maybe movies are, like, a similar thing where people get together communally to watch a story. It's different because it's not an oral story being passed on, but I don't know. It's just, like, things to consider.
For sure.
And, you know, in a lot of ways, like, I still feel like on, like, a local level, oral storytelling isn't dead. I mean, you know, if I'm catching you up on what happened to me last week and I'm telling you a story, you know, and, like, everyone, you know, whether you're conscious of it or not, makes narrative choices when you relay something that happened to you to another person. So, yeah.
One interesting question I had, do you think that as time has gone on, in general, let me say this because I don't want to say in general, but do you think in, like, Western society, like, you know, sure, I'll say Western society, do you think that, like, we have become very accustomed to, like, the quick, like, you know, get the information out quick? Because I feel like something, you know, like, people may often hear is like, oh, bruh, this story's so... Like, I feel like there is an art to storytelling. I feel like there is, you know, the way you, like, you know, you tell the sequence of events, you, like, lay out this thing, and then you, like, jump back to the beginning, and then you, like, and then something, like, gets revealed. Do you think that we've grown to be, like, just tell me, like, just give me the spark notes, like...
I guess it always depends on the context, because artfully, like, you know, slow burn movies are still good. Like, you know, Quentin Tarantino made a decent number of really slow burn movies that are great. And, you know, honestly, for me, it just, like, depends on my mood that day, like, how patient I am.
Fair
like, I'm not gonna sit through The Hateful Eight if I'm not in the mood to watch The Hateful Eight. You know what I mean?
Fair.
But yeah, like, I guess, like, the larger question here that I suppose we kind of are tiptoeing around is, is our collective attention span going down? And, like, I feel like that could get into some dangerous territory of just, like, boomers being like, back in my day. You know, I'm like, come on. But it's also true. Sound bites of information that grab your attention is how the media operates, and it's not the way... I don't think it's the way it should, but it's the way it does. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks. Prioritizing short, easily digestible content. And that has consequences not only for, as we're talking about here, stories, but also important conversations that need to be had that are being distilled down to a TikTok.
Fair.
But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Couldn't tell you. All I know is we keep these episodes an hour long.
Yeah.
Because fuck the system.
So moving on to our last little story, just an interesting thing that neither of us, or at least I don't know anything about, is the Voynich manuscript. Is actually from our competitor, our ops. Yeah. They have a little library about a mysterious undeciphered manuscript. Bro, we have to take a little trip to Yale. Many call this 15th century codex, commonly known as the Voynich manuscript, the world's most mysterious book. Written in an unknown script by an unknown author, it has no clearer purpose now than when it was rediscovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich.
Interesting.
The
I feel like I could figure it out, though.
Hey,
just give me, like, prep time.
That's crazy. A manuscript appears and disappears throughout history. It was in the library of the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II. To a secret sale of books in 1903 by the Society of Jesus in Rome. It has eluded decipherment, and it has elaborate illustrations which remain baffling, yet are described as beautiful. That's a little... Anyway. What, bro, who wrote this? Voynich cheese?
Voynich cheese.
But anyway. Text was illustrations of otherworldly plants, unfamiliar constellations, and naked women swimming through fantastical tubes and green baths.
What if my dude was just hopped up on LSD?
That's crazy, bro.
Like, for real, what if he just took a bunch of shrooms and went to town creating this book and woke up in the morning and he's like, oh man, I cooked last night, and then he looks at it and he's like, oh, come on, bro.
Well, it was written in Central Europe at the end of the 15th or during the 16th century. The origin, language, and date of the Voynich manuscripts, named after the Polish-American antiquarian and bookseller Wilfrid M. Voynich, who acquired it in 1912, are still being debated as vigorously as its puzzling drawings and undeciphered text. And it has botanical, figurative, and scientific drawings of a provincial but lively character, drawn in ink with vibrant washes in various colors of green, brown, yellow, blue, and red. There are botanical drawings, astronomical and astrological drawings, including like zodiacs, biological section containing a myriad of drawings of miniature female nudes, an elaborate array of 9 cosmological medallions, pharmaceutical drawings of over 100 different species of medicinal herbs and roots, and continuous pages of text, possibly recipes with star-like flowers marking each entry in the margins. That's really interesting. As I mentioned, it belonged to Emperor Rudolph II of Germany, Holy Roman Emperor from 1576 to 1612. I know you're quite the Roman history buff.
Well, I mean, yeah. The HRE is not. It's kind of Roman, pretty much only by name.
Okay.
But the HRE is effectively what was going on in Germany for most of the medieval kind of period, before Germany got reunified as Prussia under the fucking Otto von Bismarck. Yeah. Dude, it's been so long since I've had to perceive history. But it's just like it was kind of a confederation of German principalities. It was not really holy because they were constantly beefing with the Pope. Not really Roman, and technically not an empire, but nonetheless called the Holy Roman Empire.
My boy purchased it for 600 gold ducats and believed it was
gold ducats, baby.
I believed it was the work of Roger Bacon.
Who the fuck?
I don't know, bro. It is very likely that Emperor Rudolph acquired it from English astrologer John Dee.
John who?
Roger Bacon and John Dee, bro.
These nuts. Got him.
Damn. In addition, Dee stated that he had 630 ducats.
I don't know, bro.
In October 1586, and his son noted that Dee, while in Bohemia, owned a book containing nothing but hieroglyphics, which book his father bestowed much time upon, but I could not hear that he could make it out. This is some weird English, but anyway. Oh, interesting. Emperor Rudolph seems to have given the manuscript to Jacobus Horsicki de Penech, an exchange based on the inscription visible only with ultraviolet light.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And
as I said, bro, just give me some prep time. We'll figure it out.
That's crazy. But I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I don't know what broskies were cooking.
I mean,
stylistic analysis indicated it may have been composed in Italy during the Italian Renaissance.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of, the kind of parallels my mind is drawing here is it would be so interesting. I don't know. I'm just thinking about the Tower of Babel. And just to keep with the spooky season. Kind of maybe a more unsettling or uncanny theory about this book would be maybe it contains some knowledge that we're not supposed to know about. Maybe there's some forbidden life hacks in there, and because of that, it's permanently lost from history.
And that's the thing. That's a very interesting outlook on history that I feel like we may not necessarily talk about often. Is that I feel like there's, in my opinion, a general, assumption that, as time goes on, we learn more about the universe and whatnot. But what if certain things about the universe were known in the past that were just kind of lost along the way? Kind of like, what's in that book? Broski, I don't know.
Yeah.
What if some alien pulled up and was like... Hey, yo, my boy, Young Cash Register.
I got you,
little boomstick. Give me this back on Jupiter. And I'm giving it to you. But apparently, according to this, or just another kind of article on the internet, because, everything's trustworthy. But anyway, a lot of the book focuses on how to make medicines from herbs, and there are a number of pictures illustrating medicinal plants. So I feel like...
Interesting.
For example, a perfect, I guess for me, what was I just saying? Oh, sorry, about kind of maybe what we knew, we made the assumption that we know everything going forward, but there may have been ways of old that we just don't know about. I guess a good example of that is wasn't it relatively recent that they finally figured out the composition of Roman limestone, and why it was made that way, and what it its effect was, and
we still don't know how to do Greek fire or Damascus steel. We still find really hard to even conceive how the Inca made those stone cuts so precise.
Yeah.
Lots of really cool things happening in the world.
And that's kind of, you know, there's a spooky element to, you know, where these things go.
And
where does this
uncanny
knowledge
element.
go? And,
I will say, though, I feel like last point I want to make before we wrap up, something Hank Green talked about, but I feel like people are so quick to call alien whenever something weird or unexplained happens in outer space or on Earth. And Hank makes the point, like, that kind of kills the question. You know, it's like, if you're like, okay, aliens, done, moving on, but you didn't actually explain anything, and usually the far more interesting answer that might even lead us to places that we didn't even know were possible comes from people thinking about and being like, okay, how could we explain this? And so that's like, you know, whether you're talking about like the Brown Mountain Lights, which are probably a little more tame, or the Voynich manuscript that's like, whose explanations, you know, could be something really cool that we haven't even, or like some knowledge that's lost to history. You know, it's just like, I think it's really cool that people are out here thinking about these sort of things and trying to explain the unexplained.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, that's all the time we have. So we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Once again, you've been listening to 101.1 FM WOPPIP WDRVIP WALEIP Providence.
You guys can catch us at www.theoutapocketpodcast.com, and Outta is spelled OUTTA. Through there you can find our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram. Go check us out on all those platforms.
And hit us on our contact page too. Shoot us an email. Let us know what you think, whether you want to be on the show. We need people for the show.
Or DM us on IG. Yeah, the Outta Pocket Podcast I think it's
JPEG.
.jpeg.
Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Outta Pocket Podcast. We'll see you next week. And Loki, I ain't got nothing today. Just like stay spooky, stay uncanny, and keep looking for answers. Stay curious.
Stay curious.
The more you know. All right.
Catch you guys later. Take care.